UPN, a través de la Secretaría de Investigación y Posgrado, ha impulsado no solo apoyos a los proyectos de innovación, sino que ha creado un ambiente innovador para que la sociedad se apoye en nuestros descubrimientos científicos y tecnológicos en pro del medio ambiente. La técnica al servicio de la patria es cuanto, secretario.
A continuación solicitamos respetuosamente a la doctora Ana Lilia Coria Páez, secretaria de Investigación y Posgrado del Instituto Politécnico Nacional, nos comparta su mensaje y nos honre con la declaratoria inaugural del Encuentro de Profesores Innovadores.
Muchas gracias, muy buenos días a todos. Quiero agradecer la presencia de las autoridades que hoy me acompañan, también de los distinguidos investigadores de este centro. La verdad estoy muy contenta de estar aquí con ustedes, de que hayan tenido pues la delicadeza de invitarme para acompañarles en este día. Quería leer mi discurso político, vamos a hacerlo cortito, sobre todo porque el tiempo pues siempre es bueno aprovecharlo, sobre todo en acciones como esta. Les comentaba hace un momento, me da muchísimo gusto compartir con ustedes, sobre todo porque la educación es, creo que una de las misiones y de las acciones más importantes que tenemos como seres humanos. Esta capacidad que nos da de transformarnos y de transformar nuestras circunstancias. Como profesora, y creo que todos los profesores que están aquí el día de hoy y que van a presentar sus proyectos, tenemos esta preocupación precisamente de transmitir ese conocimiento para que nuestros estudiantes a la vez puedan ir resolviendo los problemas que se les presentan en este mundo. Yo creo que cuando alguien se preocupa, yo tenía un alumnito que alguna vez me dijo, ay doctor, pero es que no me va a dar esta carrera, ¿qué vamos a hacer? ¿Cómo podemos cambiar el mundo? ¿Cómo podría yo cambiar el mundo? Porque de repente nos parecería muy difícil, pero yo le comentaba a mi estudiante que bueno, cada uno de nosotros desde su pequeño ámbito de actuación, con las acciones de mejora que pueda hacer para su entorno, puede cambiar el mundo. Y también cuando nos preguntamos para qué estudiamos tanto y para qué tantos libros y para qué tantos años invertidos en la escuela, pues yo le comentaría a mis estudiantes también, eso es para que cuando se presenten los problemas nosotros podamos ponernos en medio de ellos y decir, sabes que hoy no es el día, hoy no es el día de que la enfermedad nos venza, hoy no es el día de que pues el cambio climático acá con nosotros, porque parece, pero bueno, aquí hay personas muy distinguidas, la doctora Norma, que está haciendo muchas acciones para que eso no pase. Entonces, todo el conocimiento que tenemos nos sirve para ponernos en medio de los problemas y la solución, y como politécnicos decir, hoy no es el día, porque para eso estudié, para eso estoy aquí, para seguir poniendo la técnica al servicio de la patria. Muchas felicidades a todos. Bueno, pues entonces, sin más, como estamos tan emocionados, ya todo se nos olvida, pero bueno, damos por inaugurados los trabajos de ay, Dios mío, Dios, por favor, ahora sí me puse súper nerviosa. Bueno, damos ay, Dios, ¿qué me está pasando? Bueno, muchas felicidades y vamos a inaugurar entonces este evento de profesores innovadores aquí en CEMAT, y muchísimas gracias por su asistencia y por toda la dedicación que ponen para estos proyectos. Muchísimas gracias.
En momentos tan importantes como este, es toda una tradición alzar nuestra voz de júbilo, la voz que une a los politécnicos. Nuestro famoso vuelo. ¿Estamos listos? Ok, a la cuenta de 3. 1, 2, 3. ¡Vuelo! Distinguido Presidium, señoras y señores, es así como damos por concluido este acto. A nombre del Instituto Politécnico Nacional, agradecemos a las autoridades quienes le han dado la formalidad al mismo y por supuesto a todos ustedes el favor de su asistencia. Que tengan un excelente día. Por favor, les pedimos permanecer en sus lugares para dar en breve inicio a la conferencia del doctor Eduardo Benitez Sandoval. Muchísimas gracias.
Prueba de audio. Uno, dos.
Anteriormente ha trabajado para múltiples organizaciones académicas relevantes como el Instituto Politécnico Nacional, la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México y la Universidad de Belfort en Alemania. En 2014 recibió la medalla Alfonso Caso. Denme un segundito, por favor. Sí. Ok. Vamos a leerlo de nuevo. Nuestro ponente tiene experiencia en ingeniería biónica, diseño industrial en ergonomía y tecnología de interfaz humana. Anteriormente ha trabajado para múltiples organizaciones académicas relevantes como el Instituto Politécnico Nacional, la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México y la Universidad de Belfort en Alemania. En 2014 recibió la medalla Alfonso Caso como una de los mejores estudiantes de posgrado de la UNAM. En 2015 fue considerado uno de los 30 jóvenes mexicanos prometedores para la revista Expansión CNN. En 2022 recibió la primera medalla Wilfrido Massieu en innovación por parte del Instituto Politécnico Nacional en el CECIT número 11. Su trabajo abarca diferentes aspectos de la robótica social, como la reciprocidad en la interacción humano-robot, HRI por sus siglas en inglés, los robots y la educación, los robots y la salud, y la adición a los robots, entre otros temas. Nuestro ponente está interesado principalmente en cómo las personas toman decisiones cuando interactúan con robots y otros dispositivos interactivos. Más allá de la robótica, existe un interés creciente en diseñar máquinas capaces de mantener interacciones sociales significativas con los humanos. Su trabajo incorpora conocimientos de la economía del comportamiento y la psicología social para explorar diferentes enfoques en la robótica social. Señoras y señores, queda con ustedes el doctor Eduardo Benitez Sandoval, desde la Universidad de Nueva Gales del Sur, en Sydney, Australia, con la conferencia magistral Social Robotics from a Multidisciplinary Perspective.
Hi there, can you hear me? I assume that yes, you can hear me. I guess my colleagues on the spot can let me know if anything goes wrong with the audio. I had been notified that I can deliver this talk in English, so I will do my best and not deliver it in Spanglish, which is pretty much my native language now. Very often when I have an audience that I'm very aware that it's able to speak Spanish, get me a little bit nervous. Firstly, thank you so much for the opportunity to be part of the Encuentro de Profesores Innovadores 2023. I truly appreciate this opportunity. I think it's a great way to close my 2023. And I want to let you know that I will do another talk following this one in a couple of hours, also for the Instituto Politécnico Nacional, para la Dirección de Educación Media Superior. And then I will deliver another talk for the International Conference for Biomimetics and Biorobotics, ROBIO 2023. I'm delivering this talk from Thailand at the moment. I'm not in Sydney, Australia, as usual. So hopefully everything goes well. And I can deliver a meaningful talk about my work for my colleagues, my peers back in Mexico. Firstly, 1 second. I want to start. I guess my slides are not moving. So if somebody on the stage can support me in that regards. I don't see the changes in the screen back. Back to Mexico. Which is very strange. My slides are not moving. Are you seeing my slides moving on? No. Okay. That's very weird. Okay. Technical problems, as usual. Let me share again. Okay. I will share again my slides. And I can see. That's very interesting. I'm moving my slides forward, but I cannot see that if you see the changes. I'm not sure if I have a. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now the second slide is on, but I have the impression that you cannot see it because I can see people in the background moving, but not the slide. Yeah. Okay. Let's try something else. Let me try this.
No problem. Take your time, Doctor.
All good. Okay, let's do it in this way. You will see my slides in the side. Hopefully it's not a big deal.
Yes.
All right, thanks. Good. Well, as I was saying, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's great to be back home at the Instituto Politécnico Nacional. And now I want to start with the traditional acknowledgement that we do in official Australian events, the acknowledgement of the country. I want to acknowledge the Bidigal and the Gadigal peoples of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which I work. I pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend these respects to all the Aboriginals of the Torres Island and Islander people, as well as the original peoples back in Mexico, which I was born and raised, the Tepanec people in Azcapotzalco, and the Otomi people in Jilotepec. Thank you so much. For today, we have an agenda for this talk. I want to discuss my general cross-disciplinary development. I try to develop a general talk, as I'm aware that the audience are my peers coming from different disciplines, and also postgraduate students, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, this will be a very generalistic talk. I will cover multiple projects that I have developed along these 13 years in which I have been working in this discipline, possibly 14. And essentially, that includes interdisciplinary collaboration in human-robot interactions. Essentially, I try to discuss if we can make robots that make us better humans. And that covers multiple topics like senior robot interaction and baby robot interaction. And of course, I want to discuss the development of these projects in regards to the relevance for humanities and engineering education, and the impact of humanities and art in the more STEAM area of engineering and computer science, and a little bit of my personal perspective in terms of techno-utilitarianism and short-term impact of that type of research. Just to put a little bit of context, I would like to share with you guys that my expertise, as the presenter previously mentioned, it's in bionics engineering, which I developed at the UPITA in the Instituto Politécnico Nacional. Then I did my master's in industrial design at the UNAM. I was specialized in ergonomics and emerging technologies. And then my PhD was nurtured by behavioral economics, no age, and social psychology, no age. So I have had a journey, quite long journey now. It feels incredibly long, especially being away from home, being part of multiple institutions around the world, from the National Polytechnic Institute, which is my alma mater, as well as the UNAM, and then short stayings in the Osaka University, and of course the University of Canterbury, in which I developed my PhD. Few months in University of Auckland and Auckland University of Technology as a visiting academic, then postdoc at University of Bielefeld in Germany. And finally, I landed and settled at University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. And I become recently Australian citizen. So now I am a Mexican Australian. Well, including more context about my work, what I do is human-robot interaction, which is a field of study dedicated to understanding, designing, and evaluating robotic systems for use by or with humans, which is a very traditional definition of the discipline. But I haven't developed a very traditional research. I actually have been putting my feet in multiple projects and multiple sub-areas of human-robot interaction with more or less level of success and failure. Some of them have had a good welcome by the community, good impact in terms of citations, in terms of publications, which is the case of reciprocity in human-robot interaction, which is possibly the longest project that I have developed. Other topics are more emerging topics like addiction to robots, or the robot prototypes that I developed when I had the startup with a couple of business partners, which I will discuss later. And of course, robot design, which is something that I will discuss further in detail in following slides. But for the younger audience, for the postgraduate students, I don't recommend this development in your careers. I reckon it's a better idea to try to be more specialized. It's great that you have intellectual curiosity. It's fantastic. I have that opportunity because I'm a scientia lecturer, which is a special position in UNSW, which allows me to use 90% of my time for research, and insignificant percentage of my time for teaching. And thanks God, I don't have to do admin, which I'm very grateful for that, because I don't do very good admin, and possibly it's a good thing for the uni as well. All right, so let's immerse in the topic. I want to show you the type of robots that I'm discussing here. When we talk about robots, we think in a variety of machines. But for this talk, and just for a general information for human-robot interaction, this is the type of robots that I'm discussing here. These anthropomorphic humanized robots, many of them trying to mimic human appearance, and very few of them are commercial robots. Just few of them have been released for the general public. Most of the robots that you see in the slide are research robots, very expensive, very uncommon, very specialized, and only available for people working in this discipline. Possibly the most popular one is this one in the 1, 2, 3, 4th row and 4th column, now robot. So that robot is very often used in human-robot interaction research. And you can see in the bottom line, a couple of robots, 3, 4, 5, 6 robots, which have been aimed to be used in domestic environments, but not really successful, commercially speaking. They cannot truly differentiate from other interactive technologies. However, we can see in the 4th column Roomba and all these vacuum cleaners, which they are classified rather than social robots as service robots, these type of robots that do mainly one task at the service of humans, and certainly they do better. Social robots, on the other hand, are generalistic platforms that are not necessarily effective when we are interacting, as they are an emerging technology. So we do our best at developing experiments with them, but certainly it's a long road ahead of us, aiming to truly interact with them at the same level that we interact with humans. Just to give you a more general view, this is one of my latest experiments in human-robot interaction at the end of my PhD back in the year, a few years ago. So this is how a typical human-robot interaction experiment looks like. I don't know if you can hear the audio. Please just raise your hand if you can hear the audio. Okay, perfect. I have seen a couple of hands there. No. So what we are seeing here is the typical experiment in human-robot interaction in which the robot talks, and we verbally talk, and we use the speech recognition of the robot, which is quite limited. In this particular experiment, the expected answer from the human is yes, no answer. And this is simply because that particular robot has a horrible speech recognition system, which is reliable only in possibly 90% of the cases, 85% of the cases, and that delivers very unreliable conditions. So 1 out of 10 experiments will not produce results if we don't implement the speech recognition in the proper way. And that's a waste of time and money, of course, when you are paying the participants to do so. In regards to these experiments, I did plenty of these experiments when I was younger. And I'm moving out of this approach of human-robot interaction. I still do things like that. I will show you a little bit later. But essentially, I try to work more now in things that are in less controlled conditions, more interactive in the sense of aiming natural interaction with the device. And simply is because we have better robots now. Before 10 years ago, the technology which we have access to, it was not as good as, for instance, the robot dogs that we have now. Actually, I have one of them at my lab, and I will discuss the project a little bit later. Another of the approaches that I have developed, and this has been a commercial endeavor, I tried to establish a company for design and development of social robots back in Mexico. That was at the end of my PhD. I did that because, well, first, I was curious about that. Second, I thought that it could be a good way to be back in Mexico and, try to develop something with the set of skills that I developed during my PhD. Third, I was curious. I really want to do something different than my everyday PhD activities. And I had the chance because I met a couple of business partners, one of them a very good friend of mine. And we were able to support the project with our own fundings and expertises. So with a very, very small team, we developed this robot, which essentially is a more affordable option compared with the most popular robot that I showed you, the Now robot, aiming also to develop more physical dexterity in the robot. I aim to develop a robot that could be capable to manipulate simple objects like a plate. And, this failed demo that I will show you show how far we were of our goal.
Okay. Thank you. Now put it on my left hand.
Okay.
Thank you.
And as you can see, well, the robot was not dexterous enough, but for the amount of support and financial resources that we were able to collect, we did an amazing job as a team. I guess, with further funding and further efforts, we could develop a platform that could be commercially viable. And actually, these days, I have been talking with a Swedish company who developed exactly the same philosophy of design and a product with similar features that this one that I'm showing you. And I was about to buy one of these robots, which possibly will happen next year. Unfortunately for this robot was destroyed in the earthquake of 2017. a wall fall over the robot, and yeah, that was a very dramatic closing for this project. However, the experience that we developed with this robot put us in the way to develop a second robot. This robot is a nurse robot. We were inspired by a Japanese project, and we were inspired mainly to one particular research gap that we discovered, and actually a very, very important human problem. It happens that in hospitals and nursery, possibly 80%, if not 90% of the nurses suffer problems in the back. It's a work injury that is very, very normal in that environment. And most of the people retire from nursery work and staff helpers with back injuries. So multiple companies try to develop aids. By the way, it happens that it doesn't matter if you have the proper technique to lift things or lift patients, which could be enormous, different than the body constitution of nurses, female nurses particularly. But the thing is that it's a very complex problem, you know, in financial terms, in human terms, and in technological terms. So with this project, we access to another funding that also we ran out of money very quickly. In that project, I coordinate a team of 16 people, possibly 3 different companies, international collaboration with one of my Mexican fellows who works in Japan. We developed an interface, and we developed the mechatronics required for this robot. And we actually did better than previous attempts, you know. In previous attempts, you know, I can show you how the robot works in fast speed. With these robots, we were capable to lift 90 kg, 90 kilograms, including the weight of the robot itself. And that is way better than what the Japanese team that inspired this project did. They firstly were able to lift only 50 kgs, and they were able to do it only with an actress. So they essentially had an actress who knows what kind of position she can hold, and then it was lifted by the robot. And again, unfortunately, this project finished because we ran out of money. And then I started my position as a scientific researcher in University of New South Wales. However, it was a lot of learnings from that project. Essentially, we noticed that the technological development in Mexico is possible. We have a lot of talented people with skills in design and with skills in engineering and computer science. And the main consideration for that is that we need a clear leadership. So my role was lead these very talented people in this very specific goal, and we were able to do this robot with more resources and more infrastructure and more supportive ecosystem around us. And particularly me being in Mexico, I reckon we could do better. I was supervising this project remotely. I was dividing my time between Germany and then New Zealand and then Australia. And that complicated things a little bit, plus having a second job or my main job at UNSW make it particularly challenging. But I'm very proud of that development. But yeah, fun adventures sometimes have to finish. Then I came back to academia, and I started to develop a different philosophy for my research. I was, as I told you, with this special position as a scientific researcher, I'm able to explore different topics that allow me to develop interesting experiments in regard different types of interaction. One of them is something that maybe could be interesting for computer scientists, which is games. Games played with robots or against robots. And that could be simple games. And games are fun. Essentially, games are fun. We use them for many purposes, like training ourselves as humans. We train ourselves social skills or cognitive skills or even emotional skills when you play memoria or poker or domino or chess or whatever you play. Certainly is a very effective way of interacting with other humans. However, if you try to do it with robots, it could be challenging. This is one of my first attempts.
Let's play Memoria.
I tried to play Memoria with this robot.
Please flip the cards for me in my turn.
Okay. We made J1 and J2. Incorrect.
Please move the card F1.
Mm-hmm. So essentially, the robot only tells me what card move. And I do all the work, right? Essentially, I move my cards, I flip my cards, and I flip the robot's cards as well. Which, as a human experience, is not fun at all. It doesn't make sense. Even if you play with another human, it's simply not engaging. It's not an effective way of playing. So the main concern or the main problem with this approach is this robot is not made for that. The robot is, although you can see hands, the hands are just for expressive purposes. It cannot hold objects. It cannot grab things. Even a pen. In a previous experiment, we were experimenting using a pen with a robot. Could be challenging. And then I abandoned this perspective. And I move to another type of robots. I start to work with robot arms, fiercely with an open manipulator. We start to point out the cards using a laser beam, the same laser beams that you use for presentations. But the same problem happened. People interacting with a robot in this way doesn't have fun. So we tried a different approach, my research assistant, Jonathan and I. We start to do some kind of weird experiments, which are not very elegant solutions, but maybe give us some clue that we don't necessarily anthropomorphize the action, but maybe we can try to make it effective. And we can try to do unorthodox approaches to moving cars, like this one. We can use magnetic holders. We can use the vision system that we were using with the other robot, not effectively. And we can flip the car in a not very elegant way. And as you can see, that approach neither work. It's not fun. If you wait for a robot for 40 seconds to flip a card, all the fun, it's gone. But anyway, this one is pioneering work. These days, I'm collaborating with a cognitive roboticist, a very dear fellow of mine from Chile, working at the Computer Science School at the University of New South Wales. And we start to discuss multiple approaches. So this is a very good opportunity for multidisciplinary collaboration. And if anyone is interested in this approach, could be quite nice and quite productive. Have a chat about it. Another project that I have been developing, this one more recently. This one was published, I reckon, in the pandemic. I remember that because I submit my paper to the journal a couple of hours before going to the hospital for the birth of my son. So my wife was not very happy with this paper before going to the hospital, taking some time to deliver the first manuscript, the first version. But this project is also connected with the development of games in human-robot interaction. But I aim to explore creativity, or indeed perceived creativity of robots. essentially, we discuss about intelligence in robots. We discuss of cognitive skills in robots, but creativity for an agent that is not human, it's way more difficult to describe, to define, to frame. And it's simply because creativity is a very fuzzy phenomenon. You only see creativity and identify creativity when the creativity happens. It's pretty much, it's impossible to define guidelines for creativity. You just create conditions for creativity. However, we have a stereotypical creative task. For instance, the fine arts, like creating stories or painting or making poems, writing poems, making music. All these things are perceived as a creative. And this experiment allows us to develop a couple of insights in terms of what makes a robot be perceived as a creative agent. And I can summarize the experiment results as its movement. In these experiments, we use cubes to tell a story. And then we did a classic story, El Patito Feo, I guess in English is the ugly duckling. And then we did a twist in the story, aiming to discover if people actually perceive this twist in the story made by the robot voice as a creative outcome. And it happens that no, what they notice is that robots who have movements that choreograph the story were perceived as a more creative robots compared with the robots that don't show any movement at all. And the story was irrelevant for them. So this is the development of the experiment. One of the multiple experimental conditions, we have 4 experimental conditions. And
let's start. Once upon a time, there was a mama duck who was very surprised with one of her ducklings. Everyone thought it was very ugly and rejected the poor little duckling. She couldn't understand why everyone was so cruel, only because she was weird. But a year later, the ugly duckling grew into a beautiful, flying dinosaur, a pterosaurus, called Quetzalcoatlus. She discovered that was different, not weird. Then she flew away with a flock of happy pterosaurs, and every year returned to say hello to her foster mum. Her mum and siblings celebrate with a happy party around the lake. The moral of the story is that some people take longer to find their true beauty.
Okay. As you can notice, the movement is not even coordinated with the story, but simply this factor makes the story or the perception of the agent more appealing. Possibly it was a little bit hard to follow the story, but instead of talking about the ugly duckling becoming a swan, we make the ugly duckling become a dinosaur, which is highly unlikely. Anyway, this experiment led us to another approach in exploring, this perceived, this is work in progress, by the way. This is work about how people perceive robots as a creative agent. So we are developing other creative scenarios in order to apply similar metrics for the robot, for the user's perception over the robots. And one of them is, painting. Painting is always perceived as a, creative activity for humans. But we are in the way to implement the experiment. Hopefully we can run it early next year and compare with previous results with other type of robots. In the previous case, we use humanoid robots, and in this case, we use industrial robotic arms. And also, the following comparison with previous experiments will be playing music, which actually, this is a demo that we did for new students in the open day of the university. And it was highly successful. It was very welcomed by the artistic community and very appealing. Making music using one of these robots supported by the visual aids as a laser beams, was perceived like a highly creative as an agent. Now, before going to the other topic, in parallel to these projects, in previous years, I have been also collaborating with the Instituto Politécnico Nacional. One of my projects that I'm very proud is with some alumni from UPITA, from bionics engineering career. And in this project, we developed a virtual agent who was actually playing with 5-year-old kids, I mean kindergarten kids, in order to develop English skills at that age, playing I Spy, which is a very typical game for toddlers in English, and I guess in Mexico is something like yo veo, something, algo con mi ojito, and then you point out an object or you describe the object and the other person points out what actually the object is. And this project, it was actually very, very engaging for me. It was a very nice way to connect with students back there. I think they were incredible talent, and it has a very, very successful impact in media back in Mexico. This one was in 2021. And we further developed the idea to, in the future, compare with robots and discover which of these interactive technologies has more impact when they interact with kids at that age. Unfortunately, the pandemic made it a little bit difficult to develop. We test only with one user case, if I remember correctly. And we developed a workshop paper for this one, and later a following publication with the supervisor of Clarissa and Diego. But certainly it's a very interesting project for people working in computer science, in human-computer interaction, and I'm very happy to develop anything in regards of this project back again with my Mexican colleagues. Now, another project in different natures. This one is a very subjective, personal project that I have been developing. It's very theoretical. It's part of my contribution to policymaking. It was by invitation for Cambridge Press, and it will appear very soon in the Handbook of Law and Regulation of Future Human-Robot Interaction, sorry. And essentially happened that when I become a father, I bought a robot cleaner for home. So in my mind, I thought that it will be released sometime, and with this time, I will be able to play with my new baby at home. But it happens that nobody in the companies developing these robots consider that robots and baby will be sharing a space at the same time in a home, right? And then, you know, this simple interaction attracts my attention since the day one when I opened the box of the robot, and my kid immediately got to the robot and start to interact in a very interesting way with it. So let me show you.
A ver si ustedes dos se dejan en paz. Rocco deja a Sebastián. Y Sebastián deja a Rocco. Ya, sepárense.
Ya. Ahora. No.
Yeah, as you can see, that is the type of domestic problems that I have at home. And now it's even worse because my kid, he is 2.5 years, and now he even kicks the robot and flips the robot, and it's a little bit cheeky against the robot. But this problem made me think about what I call robotic natives. This type of kids who are born in a world which already has robots around them, like a robot cleaners or other type of robots that could be from toys to interactive robots that they can use in the library or in the playground or things like that. I guess my kid is one of these early adopters, but in the years following, we will see more and more frequently these type of robots around the kids. And my main concern is how these kids will be impacted by interacting with robots. In the same way that now the teenagers were born or very early interact with social media like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever apps they use these days. We noticed that, certainly social media has a positive impact on them, but very often it's the case that it has a toxic and very negative impact on them because the way that they interact with their peers and the dangers that they are exposed in social media. So, aiming to prevent that type of problem interacting with robots, which I think it will be not similar problem, but we will face other problems affecting cognitive capabilities of the kids and emotional capabilities of the kids. So that book chapter for Cambridge Press speculates in regards to this topic and propose design guidelines and future regulations in how we design these robots in order to minimize negative impact and maximize benefits for kids. Now, another project that I'm working on, this one is also work in progress. I cannot show you much, but it's these projects with robot dogs. We have one at my lab, the Creative Robotics Lab, which I'm a member of. And we also have one of these very cute baby seal robots, which are incredibly successful in certain countries. These robots are used for senior care. Apparently it has positive effects in emotional and cognitive status of the seniors. But what if we mix both approaches? What if we do cute robots which are also capable to do some specific task for the senior or for the user that it's designed to interact with? And in the future scenario that we are planning is robots that are a proxy for seniors interacting with other seniors, and they can be companions in complex environments like outdoors environments. That could lead benefits in emotional terms, in physical terms, in health terms, and of course in mental health. I work with one of the worldwide specialists in the benefits of in mental health of physical activity, like a 50-minute walk work very well for your mental health. And if you're in company, it's a bit better. And if you're a senior and you are able to walk a little bit, but you feel safe and you feel that you are not in danger because a robot is your companion, plus helps you to interact with another seniors, could be an ideal scenario that I'm very keen to develop. At the moment, I'm waiting for the approval of the ethics committee at my university, and hopefully soon we can, be approved and start to do the initial work to develop this type of a scenario. And of course, what we aim is try to make the robots less intimidating. We implement something that, and that's for real, that is serious, it's called cuteness engineering. All these features and techniques that help make things cuter, like let's say Hello Kitty, for instance, or all the characters that are designed by Disney, which they mastered these techniques since many, many, many decades ago. And, combining these techniques with a robot that is capable to interact in uncontrolled environments could be very beneficial for seniors. Hopefully we get approved and we can implement this project next year. Other explorations that I have done is in autonomous cars. I'm also part of a research group at the University of New South Wales investigating the impact of autonomous cars in Australian infrastructure and society. And it happens that essentially the world is not ready for autonomous cars. We don't have the proper roads. In Australia, we have the problem of the kangaroos, which are very unpredictable animals, and they just simply jump in front of the cars, and they are huge. They can cause very serious accidents, especially in the way from Sydney to Canberra, the capital city, which I do this trip very often. And talking with the experts, it's a very, very particular problem that it's common in the Australian context. But if somebody's able to fix that problem, could be very helpful for other very complex scenarios of autonomous cars. And of course, a lot of specialists work in this, but not many, I discovered recently, work in what happened when we, as a humans, we are inside of a car that we don't drive. And as you can see in this slide, we have changed our behaviors inside of the car since the very beginning of the car. So at the very beginning, people only drive, and then they think, and then somebody implement radio, and we listen radio, and even vinyls. I remember I saw one car with vinyls back in the 50s. Of course, didn't work well. But people do all kind of things a part of driving, and especially they do more things when you have more than one human inside of a car. We have difficult conversations, we talk with our kids, we play games in the car with our kids, like spotting yellow cars, and even playing video games. Sometimes I have seen kids having a tablet and playing all the way just to not be bored inside of the car. But anyway, we have very interesting limitations in developing interactions inside of the car. If you notice, all the cars now, including the new car that I got, have screens, and they have bigger and bigger and bigger screens. And I'm a little bit worried that at the same time, all these cars have more driving aids. But they let you know when you are speeding and when you are not looking at the road, and when you are going off the lane, and even when you are tired, it starts to beep, like a beep, 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 beep. And the only reason for that is we very often get distracted by the screen itself. So it's very interesting. More visual aids and more visual information we have, and less buttons or less haptic devices in the car, we pay less attention to the driving experience. And of course, designers also are, proposing this type of interaction inside of the car based in screens. But actually, it's not necessarily the way to go. You can have no screens at all. You can explore other ways of interacting with other devices that are not screen-based devices and see how it works. And actually, I'm very curious about this project. I think that instead of engineering project, is rather a design project, a human experience project, but hopefully could be developed further in the future by one of my students. Just trying to wrap up this session, I can tell you that, because my background, I used to be a very quantitative, objectivist, positivist researcher, trying to quantify using metrics, validating metrics, and I'm moving now to more human-centered design approaches. I think because the experience that I've had using both approaches, I see a lot of value in qualitative methods. I see that you can spot things that you cannot spot using quantitative methods. And I reckon this human-centered design approach, and now the new approaches for designing, like more, planet-centered design approaches or life-centered design approaches, could lead to better technologies in the future. And our main goal as designers and engineers and technologists is try to avoid techno-solutionism. This approach about for a problem, I always have a technical solution for that. Actually, problems are way more complex in real life than that. So we need a multidisciplinary approach for them. And not just for autonomous cars, for every kind of technology or interactive technology that we design. I want to close these presentations and make time for a few questions by showing you my philosophy of research. Hopefully you find it appealing. I reckon it's what gives purpose to me and to my research and encourage me to mentor, supervise, and lead younger researchers in this field, hoping that we have a positive impact in the long term. You know, all the academic work that we do is not immediate. We tend to develop work for the next 10 years or 15 years, and we see the impact of our work in commercial products very, very, very later in that journey of research. So let me talk a little bit about how I see, or what is my philosophy designing this type of interactive technologies. Hopefully the link works. It's coming from YouTube. Since I was a kid, I was interested in technology and science and robots, of course. My big dream was be astronaut and scientist. I was not able to be astronaut, but I guess I can do some research. Social robotics, mainly the focus is machines capable to communicate, interact with people. At the moment, we are in the first steps. For instance, we have Siri and we have OK Google and we have Alexa, but they don't have the capabilities that physical machines have in the real world. So we want to merge these things together. In one hand, the utilitarian value of robots, and in the other hand, we want to have a more natural communication with them. My overall goal is investigate how robots can make us better humans. Think about the laundry machine. A laundry machine was something that helped the family, the adults around me, to release some time to do something else, like spending time with the kids, for instance. You know, it's this kind of things that I visualize with the robots, right? These tasks that we do in the everyday that consume time, but they are not necessarily having an impact in our own enhancement, in our own improvement and optimization as a humans. Maybe with all these robots around us, we will be able to paint better paintings, sculpt better sculptures. Mainly, the development of robots until this point has been led by technologists, computer scientists, and roboticists. At this point, we need way more work coming from psychology, from ethnography, from anthropology, from sociology, from design, from art, all these disciplines which are very close to the human experience. My responsibility as a designer, but also as an engineer and also as a scientist, and a mix of them, is try to connect these dots to make better robots, to make us better humans. And well, that's it. I just want to tell you thank you again for having me in this very, very, very interesting event. I hope my insights, my projects can inspire you a little bit about your own practice as a researchers. And please give me a shout, give me an email, let me know if I can help with anything. I'm very always busy, but I'm very always happy to be contacted by my Mexican fellows, particularly if they are colleagues or students from the IPN. So thank you again.
Muy bien. En este momento damos paso a la sesión de preguntas y respuestas. ¿Hay alguien que tenga alguna pregunta? ¿No? En español pueden hacerlo.
Podemos hacerlo en español o en inglés.
¿Alguna duda, alguna pregunta, algún comentario? A ver, ¿de qué lado, por favor?
El doctor mencionaba algo con la propuesta de los nuevos automóviles, ¿no? Que traen sus pantallas más amplias. Y yo al principio decía, oye, pues nos vamos a poner a ver la tele porque eso es un distractor fuerte, ¿no? Tú no estás acostumbrado a tener una televisión prendida todo el tiempo. Ya te vas acostumbrando y empiezas a manejar esos aparatos, pero sí, para poder hacer algunos detalles, porque estamos acostumbrados a lo mecánico, a lo automatizado, vamos, no necesariamente a lo electrónico. Y ahorita usted mencionó ese punto importante. O sea, sí nos va a ayudar porque nos recuerda muchas cosas, que dejaste las llaves, que no cerraste bien la puerta, ok. pero sí también esa luz tan insistente frente de los autos es sí un distractor grande. Sin embargo, he escuchado que la gran cantidad de los automóviles que se están desarrollando y las empresas, por supuesto, están insistentes en que vaya cargado de toda esta tecnología. Y la verdad es que son acciones en las que necesitamos espacio para estar viendo, espacio para estar contestando, etcétera. Entonces, todos estos distractores también pueden causar una gran oportunidad de tener con más frecuencia accidentes. Gracias, muchas gracias.
Gracias. Sí, sí puedo comentar al respecto. Muy interesante la observación, porque creo que puedo hablar de esto en el panorama más amplio y en el panorama más individual. Acabo de comprar un carro, ¿no? Creo que el último carro nuevo que voy a comprar en mi vida va a ser este. Y resulta que justo esto, ¿no? Tiene todas estas ayudas y esta pantalla de 27 pulgadas que corre a lo largo de todo el tablero del carro. Y pensaba de nuevo en este problema de los nativos robóticos, ¿no? Yo, por ejemplo, aprendí a manejar en un carro estándar de velocidades manual, sin ninguna ayuda y casi que sin instrucción, ¿no? Creo que un amigo mío me enseñó un par de lecciones y luego, ¡pum!, a la carretera, lo cual no es óptimo. Creo que en realidad aprendí a manejar cuando vivía en Nueva Zelanda, a seguir las reglas de la carretera, todas las cosas de seguridad. En México estaba un poco menos regulado hace unas décadas esto de manejar, pero justo hay un par de consideraciones ahí. Una es el nivel de autonomía que tenemos en los carros. Hay 5 niveles de autonomía. Actualmente y comercialmente solo existen hasta el nivel 3, que es un par de carros como de Mercedes-Benz y otro, me parece que el Tesla, y otra marca, no la tengo aquí en mi cabeza al momento. Y de nuevo, por ley, por ejemplo, requieres tener las manos en el volante, ¿no? Entonces, no sé, la transición en cómo manejas, justo ayer veía cómo se maneja una de estas Cybertrucks nuevas que fueron lanzadas ayer por Tesla, eh, y cómo es toda la interfase, cómo el volante no se mueve como un volante común de carro para hacer los giros porque tiene esta doble dirección, etc. Entonces, es relativamente fácil adaptarse, pero me preocupa la gente más joven que no sabe cómo manejar sin estas ayudas, ¿no? Sin toda esta asistencia que tienes para control de velocidad, para el control de el carril, para el control antichoques, para el control de no quedarte dormido, para el control de no estar viendo la pantalla y estar viendo la carretera. ¿Cómo van a aprender a manejar ellos sin estas asistencias, ¿no? Y esto es importante porque sí son muy confiables los carros y por regulación tienen que ser confiables. Las leyes australianas, por ejemplo, son muy estrictas al respecto. Pero por otro lado, siempre hay excepciones, ¿no? Y siempre hay un p-value de error, que es el error humano, gente que enloquece en la carretera o cosas así, movimientos inesperados, lo que mencionaba, por ejemplo, de los canguros en Australia saltando en medio de la carretera o cualquier otro animal de los 20 que tenemos aquí que saltan enfrente de los carros. Y quizás si no tuviéramos pantallas no necesitaríamos tantas ayudas, ¿no? Si estuviéramos no haciendo multitasking mientras manejamos, podría ser una aproximación a esto. Y ahora, teniendo carros totalmente automatizados en los años que vienen, probablemente empecemos a verlos en unos 5 años, va a ser un escenario completamente distinto. Podríamos ni siquiera estar mirando al escenario, pero estaríamos cómodos con ellos sin tener esta experiencia de estar aware, no recuerdo bien cómo, estar alerta de lo que pasa a nuestro alrededor. Hay muchos retos y probablemente son retos para la nueva generación trabajando en estas tecnologías, pero que tiene un impacto muy, muy fuerte socialmente. Ya veo más manos, qué bueno.
Gracias. Hola. Bueno,
Hola.
soy Griselda. Yo tengo una duda respecto a cómo manejas esta parte de tu trabajo. mencionaste hace un momento que hay un comité de ética que evalúa el tema de los proyectos, ¿no? Y entonces me surge este tema porque al igual, por ejemplo, como está sucediendo con la inteligencia artificial, con la robótica social, pues también tiene mucho ese tema. En el sentido de, pues, lo que sustituye como un servicio necesario y lo que se considera una parte puramente humana. Como este tema de, pues es que la inteligencia artificial ahora también ya hace arte, ¿no? No sé si me explico hacia dónde quiero llevar el punto. Y me gustaría que nos comentaras qué impresión tienes tú y qué piensas al respecto.
Ok, sí, bueno, más o menos creo entender hacia dónde quieres llegar y más o menos todos en el resto del mundo entendemos a dónde queremos llevar. Creo que nadie entiende bien a dónde queremos ir, a dónde vamos, de hecho. Y esto es la cosa de la innovación, ¿no? La innovación es un proceso bien orgánico, casi evolutivo. Pasa en los lugares más inesperados a veces. Por ejemplo, oír de compañías que hacen robótica en México, pues era inesperado. Y hace 2 o 3 años, cuando he colaborado con el Canal 11, estos programas especiales, resulta que hay varias y hay también innovadores latinoamericanos moviéndose hacia allá. Entonces, nadie lo espera, ¿no? No toda la innovación sucede en un solo lugar y es no deseable que suceda en un solo lugar, ¿no? Y ese creo que es uno de los grandes problemas de la inteligencia artificial, particularmente la que está basada en modelos de lenguaje, Large Language Models, LLM, no sé si han oído, um, y previos modelos, ¿no? Inteligencias más limitadas que usan estas redes neuronales adversariales. Eh, Poco discutimos en el mundo de la ciencia de la computación de la parte humana al curar los datos, ¿no? La parte de los valores, la parte de quién está curando esos datos. Por ejemplo, hay mucha gente en Latinoamérica que por €1 al día cura estos datos y estas bases de datos y está expuesto a un montón de material súper violento y súper tóxico para tu salud mental y para tu día a día, ¿no? Empezando por esa parte del dilema ético, ¿no? Luego viene la cosa, por ejemplo, de los valores o la multiculturalidad. Recuerdo mucho este caso de, no sé, ella hace muchos años, como 5 o 6 años, identificando novias, ¿no? Y entonces una novia, pues viste de blanco, es etérea, es virginal, es hermosa. Y de repente pones una novia que es de la India y el traje de novia de la India no es blanco, es muy rico culturalmente, tiene dorados y rojos y azules y es precioso, ¿no? Y eso lo identifica como disfraz, ¿no? Y entonces es esta cosa también de que suena un poco feo, pero eh, esta gente que nunca ha salido de California, generalmente hombres, que son los que ponen dirección al resto de nuestras vidas, ¿no? Y entonces es esto de enmarcar un problema tecnológico en algo mucho más amplio, en algo menos tecnosolucionista. Y eso es algo que creo que como Instituto Politécnico Nacional, Politécnico, debemos discutir, ¿no? Esta parte poli y esta parte más allá de la técnica, ¿no? No particularmente los problemas contemporáneos ya no son solo problemas técnicos, son problemas mucho más complejos. Alguien los define como wicked problems, por ejemplo, ¿no? Estos problemas difíciles de decir, difíciles de enmarcar, difíciles de definir, ¿no? Empezar con un problema, definiendo un problema. Ustedes, que imagino son, por los jóvenes que se ven, son estudiantes de posgrado, si no es que postdocs o con mucha suerte sí ya son investigadores activos que empezaron muy jóvenes, espero que sea su caso, no como el mío, que empecé yo un poco tarde en mi carrera en investigación. Eh, es esta cosa de valorarlo. Ustedes saben cuán difícil es definir un problema, ¿no? Cuando trabajas en ese sentido. Y en la AI creo que esa discusión la debemos tener más intensamente, creo. Sí.
Quizá la pregunta quería orientarla más hacia un tema de, hemos trabajado en algunos proyectos para hacer pues robótica social y entonces la parte dura, pues tú sabes cómo somos los politécnicos, ¿no? Somos cuadrados en ese sentido. Y entonces, bueno, el tema de que un sistema que propiamente no genera un sentimiento, ¿no? Pero tiene la intención de que tú sí lo generes. No sé si me explico. Y viene como esta parte psicológica de qué impacto tiene en la persona. Y entonces se da como, por un lado, la robótica como dura, lo dice, bueno, ¿cuál es la aportación que tiene este tipo de sistemas de investigación? Y luego la otra parte social, pues ve como un gran impacto en mejorar la vida de las personas, justamente como lo decías tú, ¿no? Pero me gustaría, por ejemplo, que tú me dijeras que desde tu punto de vista, ¿cuál es la aportación fuerte que tiene tu grupo de investigación?
Oh, claro. Gracias por ponerme en problemas. Creo que, pues mira, claro, está bien, es bueno tener preguntas duras. Mira, yo pienso que nuestras aportaciones como investigadores individualmente o como grupos siempre son súper limitadas, son súper chiquitas, ¿no? En el caso de la robótica social, creo que yo desarrollé mi carrera en un momento en que México no le interesaba mucho el tema. Yo planteé hacer mi doctorado en México y como que nadie le pareció como tan interesante. Pero de nuevo, es de hecho la razón por la que mi presentación tiene este título, ¿no? La multidisciplinaridad, esta perspectiva multidisciplinaria. Creo que, y es muy difícil hablar el mismo lenguaje, ¿no? Hablar con alguien que viene de sociología o psicología cuando tú eres computer scientist o ingeniero. Me tocó hablar con el director de Arts en Linz. No sé si conocen este centro como de investigación y arte que está en Austria, en Linz. Yo le decía, ¿cuánto te toma que un científico y un artista hablen? Y me dice, hasta 3 años, ¿no? Hasta que por fin le pueden hacer algo, toma 3 años, ¿no? Se sientan ahí, no hablan entre ellos y empieza con tomar un café y luego una cerveza y es un proceso largo, costoso, caro en el sentido humano y financiero. Y en la robótica social, la verdad es que ahorita estamos en una cuerda floja, porque por un lado generamos conocimiento, pero por otro lado dependemos totalmente de una tecnología que todavía no sabemos hacia dónde va, ¿no? En el sentido de la AI creo que está muy claro, ¿no? Estos modelos por ejemplo, este año fui reviewer de muchos papers, creo 4 o 5 de la International Conference of HRI, y vamos a ver este año publicados varios papers que usan estos chatbots implementados en robots. Es obvio, ¿no? Creo que cualquiera lo haría si tienes un robot y acceso a ChatGPT, pues lo haces, ¿no? Pero encontrarle el valor va a tomar muchos más años comparado con otros tipos de robots, como los robots de servicio, ¿no? Los robots de servicio ya son una industria bien grande de 10 billones de dólares. La robótica social, lo más probable es que se enfoque a poblaciones especiales primero, seniors, niños, autismo, gente en el espectro, descubrimientos de ese tipo. Y la segunda es que es un caldo de cultivo para la investigación interdisciplinaria. Yo creo que a veces en las ciencias duras no se ve el valor de esto. Lo he vivido yo mismo, ¿no? Cuando pido fondos para esto, es como, ¿por qué le vas a dar fondos a esto, no? Es como, y es un juego a largo plazo, ¿no? Que esto que estoy trabajando, este conocimiento que estoy desarrollando experimental, se transfiera a productos comerciales. Es una carrera de 10, 15 años, ¿no? Yo creo que esta disciplina empezó por ahí por los 2000, 2005, 2003 en la Roman Conference, y ahora es una comunidad un poquito más grande, pero aún así no se compara con otras disciplinas en computer science mucho más consolidadas, ¿no? Pero sería muy interesante hablar contigo y con tu grupo no sabía que había un grupo de Social Robotics en el instituto, entonces qué bueno que estamos aquí compartiendo espacio. Sí, por favor, contáctenme. Me gustaría mucho saber acerca de su trabajo.
Ok, tenemos una pregunta vía redes sociales. Nos pregunta Judith López. ¿Para la implementación de estas tecnologías se tiene conocimiento de ciclos de vida de dichos equipos?
Sí. Sí y no, ¿no? Porque de nuevo son robots de investigación. Las compañías que hacen robots de investigación no necesariamente son compañías que hacen dinero, generalmente son spin-offs de otras compañías más grandes que apoyan este tipo de exploraciones comerciales y muy frecuentemente caen en bancarrota, ¿no? Entonces siempre es una apuesta, puedes usar un robot y en 3 años ya la compañía ya no existe, ¿no? Y entonces, pues, ¿quién te da el apoyo? ¿Quién te da el soporte? Y es frecuente, ¿no? Es frecuente y pues tienes que tomar ese riesgo porque si no, pues te quedas atrás. Entonces, no quisiera mencionar marcas o nombres de robot en específico, pero los especialistas en esto sabrán cuáles estoy hablando. Y pues a veces quisieras tú poder reparar el robot por ti mismo, pero posiblemente no tienes el expertise para eso. Y sí, y en muy específico, pues estos robots tendrán un ciclo de vida de por ahí de menos de 5 años, yo creo, ¿no? Depende cuántas veces los dejes caer o cuántos mal usos hagas de ellos. Me ha pasado, he tirado un par de ellos accidentalmente y veo a mis colegas que se ríen porque seguramente ya les pasó también. Entonces sí, yo diría que en condiciones muy buenas, unos 5 años, en condiciones normales, unos 2 a 3. Sí.
Ok, por cuestiones de tiempo, hasta aquí vamos a cerrar la sesión de preguntas y respuestas. Es así como concluimos esta conferencia. Agradecemos al doctor Eduardo Benítez Sandoval por su participación en este encuentro de profesores innovadores. Muchísimas gracias y no se muevan, en un momento más continuamos.
Gracias. Oh, wow.